Hello and welcome. I think I am the only one here so far. Oh, looks like we have one person joining us. Thank you so much for coming. I hope that once we start in just a minute, we'll have a few more people here. So go ahead and get yourself comfortable. Set up any props that you want for your class. So I will be showing 2 blocks, a blanket, and some pillows today. For this class, you don't necessarily need any props, but if you do have things at home that are soft that you want to bring into your practice, pillows are great, blankets are great, and any of those things are great, but do feel free to get creative. My name is Lacey, and it is my pleasure to teach you here today. We'll be doing a 60-minute class. It'll be yin restorative focus, so we'll be moving very slowly. And hopefully by the end of this class, you feel refreshed and ready to get on with the rest of your day. Before we start this class, I'll read a quick note about Hands to Heart Center. So, Hands to Heart Center is Boston's only nonprofit yoga service organization. Hands to Heart Center serves Boston's most vulnerable communities, including students in high poverty schools, homeless men, women, and children, women living in domestic violence shelters, children with specific needs, adults in treatment for substance abuse disorder, veterans, migrant communities, people who are incarcerated, and much more. Hands to Heart Center shares the healing benefits of yoga with those who have the least access to it and who could benefit from it the most. So thank you, Hands to Heart, for hosting this today. We will go ahead and get started right away. So to begin, go ahead and come into a comfortable seat. That's where we'll start. I'll be showing the seat today on pillows. If you have something to prop yourself up, that's great. If not, just make sure you're comfortable. So if it's more comfortable to sit in a chair, that's also an option. As you arrive into your seat, again, you might take something underneath you just so that the hips come a little bit higher than the knees. Do make sure that you are grounded, that you are in a seat that you can sustain. If your knees are lifted off your mat or off the ground, you can always slide something. Maybe it's yoga blocks, maybe it's an extra rolled up blanket, but something to keep them propped up underneath them. And then once you're comfortable, you can lengthen your spine so that the crown of your head reaches a little taller up to the ceiling. Then you can close your eyes or soften your gaze. And just begin to notice what you feel in your body. So see if you can set aside whatever it is that you were doing before coming into this virtual space. So giving yourself the gift of being here fully with your undivided attention. Notice how you feel. And if you feel nothing in your body, that's okay too. But know that whatever comes up in our practice today is okay. So can you let what comes up come to the surface? And without judging, can you be with it? In this moment, can you be with presence? And we'll join our hands together into the center of our hearts, pressing palm onto palm. Widen across your collarbones a little. Let your shoulders draw backwards. And maybe let the crown of your head come a little taller up even. And then take a breath in. And sigh it away. We'll breathe 2 more times like that. Inhale. Sigh it away. One last time, inhale. Exhale. Good. You can blink your eyes open. Release your hands down. And extend your legs all the way forward in front of you. Once your legs are extended, just give them a gentle pedal up and down. So maybe tapping the knees a few times. Just bringing a little bit of awareness down to the lower half of your body, down to the legs, down to the feet. You can give your toes, your feet, a windshield wiper from side to side. Continuing to invite awareness into this space. Good, and then we'll go ahead and set up for the first shape that we're taking today. It is a yin pose called butterfly. So to take it, you can take your hands behind the backs of your knees to give them a bend. Set the soles of your feet together to touch. Knees can come out wide. If you do take this, or if you do take faster paced yoga shapes, or yoga classes rather, this is a shape that is cued often. But often when we cue it in yoga, we cue the heels really close into the groin. In yin, you want your feet kind of away from your body, not all the way out in front of you, but also not all the way up close to you. So something of a happy medium. Start with your fingertips tinted into the floor behind you. Lengthen all the way up through your spine, lengthen up through the crown of your head. And then you might just stay here in stillness, or you might invite some gentle flexion and extension into the spine. So you might hug your shoulder blades in and lift your heart up a little higher. Maybe your gaze lifts. And then you might round your spine back just a little, allowing the space between the shoulder blades to widen a touch. Good, and then maybe you inhale to draw the shoulder blades in and lift the heart up. And maybe you exhale to round yourself in. Take just a few more of those, just a few seated cats and cows in this butterfly shape. You can move at whatever pace feels best in your body. Feels like it serves most right now. About 2 more, inhaling and exhaling. Good, and the next time you inhale, come back into a long, tall spine. And just notice if this shape that you've taken feels like one that is sustainable for you. Again, you might want something underneath your seat, whether that's pillows, blankets, books, something to prop you up. And you might want to come to the very edge of that seat, of that surface that you're grounded onto, so that your pelvis can spill forward. And that could create a little more ease for the low back. Now you want to think about lengthening out through the low back, so the low back stays nice and long. And then you can either keep the upper back lifting straight up, or if you'd like to fold over your legs, you might soften your way down over your legs. And then if you're softening down over your legs, just notice what you feel as you come into this shape, as you come into this still version of the shape. So in a typical yin practice, we tend to hold shapes for about 3 to 5 minutes. So it is important that you're not coming to your very maximum stretch each time that you approach a shape. You want to approach them in a gentle way so that in being here, you can open over time. And again, I encourage you to make use of any props that you do have at home. So whatever you need underneath your seat, but also whatever you need underneath your knees. So if the knees are feeling like they're not liking the shape, you might try sliding blocks, blankets, something you have at home underneath the knees for a little more comfort, for a little more ease. And then once you are in that shape, that feels like your edge, that feels like a place to be in, to breathe in, that is sustainable. Can you let yourself soften into it? Maybe by softening the muscles around your face, softening the jaw, softening the back of the neck. And continue checking in as you're here. Continue taking inventory. and noticing what you feel. If at any time you feel any sense of pain, and then come out right away. Or change something about the position. But if you are just in a shape that feels like a dull ache, notice if you can hold here and stay here and breathe. And as we approach the final minute of this shape, just notice how your body feels. If your body wants to come a little deeper, maybe you bend your elbows a little more, maybe you soften down a little more over your legs. But if you've already had enough, maybe you crawl away from the legs, maybe you roll back upright, come out part way or all the way. Either way, notice what you feel. And if you can be with it, then can you be with it? From where you are, start to slowly roll your spine upright, using the strength of your belly to pull yourself up. Take your hands behind the backs of your knees and slowly bend them in. Then you can take your fingertips behind you. Either stay with a straight upright spine, or maybe you invite a little bit of movement into your body if that feels like it's needed. But it is important to move a little bit slowly as we come out of yin shapes, since we have been there a while, and to notice what there is to feel. Draw your knees back through center, and then you can slowly extend your legs out in front of you so that they come to straight. Now, if this doesn't feel okay in your body with the legs fully straightened, if that causes any aches or pains in the low back or anywhere else in the body, you might slide an extra pillow underneath your knees, maybe a rolled up blanket underneath your knees, so that you can make this a little bit softer. And then you can start just like you did before, with your fingers tinted alongside your body, with your spine nice and long, the crown of the head lifted straight up. Let yourself stay here in this upright spine for just a moment or two. Let the crown of your head lift a little taller, and maybe you feel the sits bones press down into the surface that they're in. You can stay with this upright spine, or if you'd like to fold over your legs to any degree, maybe you start to soften your way down. As you're softening down, know that the legs, they can be about hips width apart, but if it feels better to take the feet a little bit wider into a little bit more of a narrow V, that's also okay. So the yin practice is less about how a shape looks and more about how it feels in your own body, more about what your own experience is. So as you're coming into the shape, again, notice what you feel. And let yourself be with what comes up. Notice if there's any gripping around the feet. If you are flexing your feet intentionally or pointing your toes, notice if you can do something a little bit in between that flex and that point, something a little bit neutral. And then notice if relaxing the feet can allow you to soften the rest of the muscles in the legs. But if it's too soon in your body to do so, then that's okay too. And again, anytime that anything remotely feels like pain, whether that's a sense of sharpness or a sense of tingling, of numbness, or something along those lines, know that you can come out, that you always have the ability to choose what shape you are in. But if you can be here, then let yourself be with the sensation. And we'll just be in this shape for one last minute. So in this last minute, take inventory once again, noticing what you feel. I know that there is no right or wrong to what sensation comes up. If you need to deepen a little, maybe you fold a little deeper. If you need to back away, maybe back away. And then spend just a few more breaths here. You can begin to slowly roll your spine back upright, letting each vertebra stack one on top of the other. You can take your hands behind the backs of your knees to slowly bend them once again. If you had something underneath your knees, set it aside for a moment. Take your fingers behind you. Maybe allow the heart to lift up. And then maybe you stay here, or maybe you slowly sway the shins a little bit from side to side. Good, and then take your knees back through center. We'll be making our way down to our mats or down to whatever surface you have. Have each of your props, all the things that you have to make yourself comfy, have them nearby. And we'll be coming into a sideline shavasana on the left. So this is a little more of a restorative shape than a yin shape. So go ahead and come down onto your left side. You might have a pillow underneath your left ear. It might also be a blanket rolled up. You might bend both of your knees, setting the shins one on top of the other. Or another option is to slide a second pillow in between the legs. Another option that you might play with is stacking a few pillows underneath your top leg. Maybe it's one, maybe it's a few. And to set the top leg down, and the bottom leg can come out straight behind you. If you have another pillow or a blanket or something to take in between your arms, you might take something in between your arms and just give it a hug. So inviting a little bit of comfort into the body. And again, if you have none of these props, that's also okay. You might just be with your left arm extended and your head on the side of the arm. But find your way into a shape that doesn't necessarily feel like a stretch of any sorts. It feels like maybe a little more of a release. So one of the big differences between yin and restorative, in yin you are looking generally for a little bit of a stretch. You are looking for some sensation to soften into. In restorative, you're looking for a shape that can kind of take your mind off of the body. You're wanting to support yourself. and soften into the support that you have. And invite the mind to relax, to release, to follow the body. If the mind doesn't want to relax, to let go right away. If you still have thoughts moving, that's okay. But the invitation is there to let the mind go over time. And we'll be in this shape, some version of it, for another few minutes. The first option is to stay here exactly as you are if you feel like this is a good place to be. Second option is to take this into a twist. So back into a little more of a yin shape. So from where you are, you can either have the top knee bent. For most of us, it'll be the right knee, as you outstretch the right arm towards the right side, or you could bend both knees, stacking them onto whatever pillows, whatever blocks, whatever blankets you have underneath this left knee now if both knees are bent. And this version with both knees bent might feel a little gentler in your body, so just notice what you need. And then to come into the twist, you'll open your right arm to the right side, and you'll soften your right shoulder blade down onto the mat. Now, if that feels like too much of a twist, then you can take more props, or you can take your props a little bit higher underneath the left knee. And know that that twist, again, it is an option. If you prefer to stay in sideline Shavasana, that's okay too. Your right arm can go out to the right side, either into a T shape or into a goalpost shape. And then your left arm can also go to the left, either in a T or a goalpost shape. And then your gaze might travel in the opposite direction of your knees if that feels like something that is interesting to explore. And do know that everything that I say, both in this shape and in each of the shapes that we take, they're all just suggestions. So you are welcome to follow my guidance or to modify, to do things differently. So if you're in this twisting version of the shape, you might feel a little more of a stretch here than the restorative shape that we took in that sideline Shavasana, but maybe not. Notice what you do feel in your body, whether that's a stretch across the muscles of your chest, some rotation of the spine, something else. And notice if you can let yourself soften into sensation. Again, inviting your mind to be fully present, to be fully aware of whatever comes up for just the very last minute that we're here. Whichever version of the shape that you're in, we'll begin to slowly ease our way onto our backs now. So however you need to do so, if you were in that twist, you might roll back onto your left side first to come all the way onto your back. Just rolling your knees into center. A few options. You could stay in stillness, maybe with the soles of the feet down to the mat, maybe in a constructive resting shape. You might outstretch your legs, taking a moment or two in a shavasana. Or if you feel like you need a little bit of movement, a little bit of a release here, you might take your knees towards your armpits and maybe gently windshield wiper your shins from side to side. Just breathing down into the low back. Breathing into any sensation that comes up here. Good, and then we will set up for our side lying shavasana on the right side. So you can set the soles of your feet back down. You can reach your right arm overhead, and then you can rock your body onto the right. And I'll show you this shape facing the opposite direction so that you can see my front rather than the back side. So again, you'll want a pillow maybe to come underneath your head. If you don't have a pillow, no worries. Again, right arm underneath the ear also works if that's comfortable for you. You can transfer any props that you have. If you were using either in between the legs or underneath the legs over to that second side. Again, maybe it is a few pillows or maybe a pillow stacked on a few blocks underneath the top leg, the left one. You could keep the right leg fully extended and the left leg bent, or you could bend both knees. And then you might take a pillow, a blanket, or something soft to hold in between your arms, just kind of giving it a hug. You might gently soften your chin down towards your chest. Maybe lick your lips and swallow. Inviting your body to soften if it feels okay in this moment to do so. And then can you let yourself be here? And let yourself breathe here. And again, if your body has found what it needs in this first version of the shape, then feel free to stay right here. If you'd like to come into the twisting version of this shape, then maybe you stay with the same setup of your legs. Maybe it's just the left knee that is bent and the right leg is straight. Maybe you bend both of your knees, setting both of them down onto your surface of cross. As you begin to open the left arm out to the left side to come into your twist. Now again, know that you can take this twist as gentle as need be for your body in this moment. So if you want to approach more of a gentle twist, you could stack your props a little bit higher, taking more height underneath the knees. You could also play with sliding your knees farther away from your body. If more depth, more intensity is what you need in this twist, maybe you hug your knees a little bit closer into your body. Again, gaze could be through center. It could even be to the right side still, if that feels most stable. For a little bit of a deeper twist, the gaze can come over to the left. Arms could be out to a T shape. They could be out into a cactus shape. But if it does feel better to set your hands somewhere down onto your body, you might set your hands somewhere onto yourself. It could be nice to take your hands around your rib cage here if you're taking a hands-on variation. If that doesn't work in your body, of course, you don't have to do it. But if it does, maybe you invite your breath into the rib cage as you stay in this shape. If your hands are on your ribs, you might gently inflate the ribs, both upward and outward and backward towards the mat. With each breath in, feeling that expansion all the way around. And with each exhalation, there can be a sense of the ribs softening, as if the ribs are giving your body a hug. Again, notice what you feel on this second side. Notice if it's any different than the first. That's okay if it is. But can you be with that sensation? And we'll begin to slowly ease our way out onto our backs once again. So if you're in the twisting version, you might roll all the way back onto your right side, maybe pausing there. before bringing yourself back to center. If you do have a pillow or a blanket underneath the back of your head, you could keep it where it is. Set the soles of your feet down onto the mat and maybe keep them there. Or again, if you want to extend the legs forward, you could. If you want to hug your knees back into your body, maybe you do, and maybe you circle your knees around a few times. Breathing down low into the sacrum, into the muscles of the low back. You might circle your knees the opposite way. Good, and we'll set the soles of the feet down to the mat. And then you could extend your legs all the way forward. You can bring your arms overhead. If you still have a pillow underneath your head, you might want to set it aside for this next shape. You can bring your arms overhead. If you have the space, you can reach them all the way out behind you. If you only have the space to clasp onto opposite elbows, then maybe do that. And then start to walk your legs over to the left or over to the right bottom corner of your mat. So just crawling them out to the right. Keep your hips where they are. And then move your shoulder blades, your head, your arms over to the right. So legs to the right, arms to the right. You could keep that clasp of the elbows overhead, or you might extend the arms overhead. Just notice what feels best, what feels most sustainable. As you set up for this crescent moon shape, or banana asana. So your body's in this curved shape. If this is enough, you can stay here. If you want a little more of a side body stretch, you might play with crossing your left ankle over the right one. Notice what you feel here. Know that if you've come into too deep of a stretch, you can always unwind a little bit through center. This is another yin shape, and you do want it to feel somewhat gentle to start, so that over time, you can come a little deeper. If you are starting to get cold, maybe you take a blanket over your body. Maybe it comes over the hips, over the belly, maybe over the ribs. And you could breathe once again into the ribs. Maybe imagining that that left side of your body has gills on it, and that you could breathe directly into this space. And so each inhale, expanding a little bit through the left lung, through the left gills. And each exhale, softening. From where you are, you can move slowly to invite the legs back through center. Maybe they stay extended, or maybe you give them a bend. You can walk your shoulders, walk your arms back through center. And maybe for a moment, you draw your arms alongside your body. Notice what you feel in the two sides of your body. So notice if the left side feels any different from the right. You could stay right here in center. If you want a little bit of gentle movement, maybe you keep the feet grounded as you sway your shins just a little bit side to side. And then when you're ready for banana asana, for that crescent shape on the second side, you can extend your legs forward. And then you can walk your legs over to the left bottom corner of your mat. You can walk your arms overhead, either keeping them out long, or if you only have the space for clasp of elbows, you can take that clasp of elbows and then maybe take the opposite clasp, so it's a grip that's a little bit less habitual. And then keep your hips grounded where they are. Just walk your shoulders, your head, your arms over to the left side. If there's anything that needs to be changed about the arms, maybe you change it now. If you'd like to deepen through the legs, maybe you cross your right ankle over the left one. I know that there are many, many degrees of this shape, so you can come as deep or as gentle as you need in this moment. And know that, again, each moment your body changes. So you're welcome to continue to fine-tune your expression of this shape. You're welcome to continue to shift, to bring yourself a little bit more into honesty with your body and where it is at any given time. So let yourself be in the shape you're in. Maybe let yourself take up a little bit of space if you can. And maybe breathe into the right side of your body. And breathing down into the right lung, into your imaginary right gills. Each inhale inflating. And each exhale softening. Begin to slowly invite your legs, your arms all the way back through center. Maybe you take your arms alongside your body. Maybe you keep your legs out long this time. Maybe you soften here for a moment. Again, can you notice the two sides of your body? Notice any sense of pulsing, any sense of tingling, any sense of energy moving. And then you can slowly bend your knees, setting your feet down onto the surface that they're touching. Reach one arm overhead, it doesn't matter which. And then rock your knees onto the same side that arm is lifted. To rock all the way onto that side. And pause there for a moment or two, just allowing the entirety of your body, all of your weight to spill down onto this side. And then moving slowly, use the strength of your arms to lift yourself upright. We will set ourselves up for legs up the wall before coming into Shavasana. So you'll want a little bit of wall space for this. You also may want a blanket or some kind of cushion to come underneath your low back, your sacrum. If you have one, great. If not, that's also okay. So to come into legs up the wall, if you're taking a blanket underneath you, position it so that there's just a few inches in between the wall and where your blanket is. And then you'll rock onto one side, onto one hip, lower one shoulder down to lift your legs up to the ceiling. If you are taking a blanket underneath you here, you may take it so that just the very edge of your sacrum, of your tailbone comes off of the blanket. Your legs can be fully extended up the wall, but if it feels better to have a bend in your knees, you might bend them. If you have really tight hamstrings, or if there's a lot of sensation in the backs of your legs, you might scoot your way back and away from the wall so that sensation becomes a little less, if that's what you need. Having that bend of your knees, especially if you're farther away from the wall, can also help to alleviate some of that sensation through the back of the legs. Now your arms can be wherever they need to be. So maybe it's alongside the body. Maybe it's in a goalpost, an I surrender shape. Or maybe it's somewhere on your body. Wherever you are, notice how you can soften here, if you can at all. Maybe softening the muscles of your feet. So you might give your toes a gentle wiggle out. Maybe you scrunch up the toes a few times, clenching and releasing, clenching and releasing. And then eventually maybe inviting them into stillness. Maybe you soften the muscles that run down the legs. So you can imagine each of your toes softening, starting with the littlest toe. And then moving to the next, and the next, and the next. Your big toe. And softening the muscles of the feet. Softening the heels, the tops of the feet. Softening the calves, the shins, the knees. Softening the hamstrings, the quadriceps. Softening through the pelvis. Softening all the way up your spine. You can imagine a sense of softening around the navel, around the heart, through the shoulders, the upper arms, the elbows, the forearms, through your wrists, through your thumbs, first finger, second finger, third and fourth, up through the neck, up through the jaw, through the lips, the tongue, the muscles that you use to swallow, and through the nose, the brow line, each of your eyes, maybe allowing the eyes to come a little bit heavier into their sockets, up through the forehead, all the way up to the scalp. And letting anything that is still clenching, that is still gripping, inviting it to release, inviting it to soften a little more. And can you stay for a few more moments in this softness, in this space? And then slowly, slowly, maybe take your hands behind the backs of your knees to bend them. To come out of this shape, you might scoot yourself a few inches away from the wall. You might reach one arm overhead, rock your knees all the way onto that side. Pause there just a moment or two on whichever side you come to, before slowly lifting yourself back up. And then from there, you can begin to make your way into your final rest, into Shavasana. So to come into your resting shape, take any props that you want. Maybe setting yourself up with maybe a pillow underneath the back of your head, whatever things you have at home. If the low back is feeling tight, maybe you take a second pillow underneath the backs of your knees. Maybe a blanket comes over your hips or over the heart. Maybe you have either an eye pillow or a cool cloth, a warm cloth, something to put over your eyes, just to relax the muscles of your eyes even a little more. And then once you have your props in position, you can make your way down to your back. And know that all of these things that I cued are just options. And so you can stick with something that I suggested, or it could be something different. You could get a little bit creative. And you can let yourself come into rest here. Know that if lying on your back does not feel comfortable, does not feel sustainable, you could take the side lying version that I cued a little bit earlier. Or you could be in a seated meditation instead. Whichever version you are taking, begin to make your way there. Once you are there, let the muscles of your body Soften even a little more. And let the breath begin to soften. As you breathe down into the belly. Notice what's happening in your mind. And let those thoughts in the mind, whatever they are, start to fade away. As you come into rest in your Shavasana. Begin to invite a little more breath into the body. You might begin to invite a little bit of gentle sensation back, a little bit of gentle movement. Maybe wiggling each of your fingers, wiggling each of your toes. If it feels intuitive to do so in your body, you might yawn your arms overhead. If you're on your back, you might lengthen your legs all the way forward, just coming into a nice, long, full body stretch. And you can take a bend of your knees if you're on your back. Rock your knees to one side. Rock all the way off to that side. Before slowly crawling your way all the way up to a nice, tall spine. And coming into your seat. Once you're seated, see if you can keep a little bit of quiet in the body and the mind. Maybe by keeping the eyes closed, the gaze soft. Draw your palms together to touch at your heart. Bow your chin down to your chest. A gesture of gratitude to yourself for carving out this space, for showing up to your mat. I thank you all so much for joining me for today's class. So thank you all so much. Thank you for those who joined me today. Again, my name is Lacey, and this has been put on by Hands to Heart and Boston Public Library. So I thank both of those places for joining. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.